everyone, it's Dr. Joyce. TGIF, thank God it's Friday, except as you know in medicine, we're always working. So today, since I'm on call throughout the weekend as well, I wanted to do a little vlog on what it actually means to be on call. So it really depends on what specialty you're in, because being on call means something very different. For example, in dermatology, there are 8 residents in my year, and we split taking call throughout the year. So on average, each one of us is on call every 8 weekdays, and then we split the weekend calls. So each of us is on call every 8 weekends as well. And this goes on a rotating schedule for 1 year. So that's actually not that bad. So what does it mean to be on home call for dermatology? So we basically get this lovely guy, 2 of them actually, and you basically wait by the pager. No, I'm just kidding. You can still, go out and do your usual activities, but you always have to have your pagers close by, and we also carry around these bags, these biopsy bags. Actually, I'll show you my biopsy bag. Courtesy of Neutrogena from the AAD, the American Academy of Dermatology Conference this year, I have this handy-dandy biopsy bag filled with all of my supplies that I would ever possibly need on dermatology call. So let's take a look at what's inside. So first off is my binder. So whenever I get a call or a page and I call back the number, I will get ready my sheet. I didn't go to USC, but this is a very handy folder. So in this sheet, I have a cheat sheet, a paper, that basically goes through who's calling, what time it is, and all the specifics of the patient. So I ask all the relevant questions, what's the reason for the call? Usually it's like, okay, they have a rash or some bump or something like that. So how long has this been going on? What has been tried? Have they started any new medications? Because a lot of the questions that we get for dermatology inpatient consults is about a drug rash. So, patients who come into the hospital, they're started on like a ton of new medications. And so oftentimes we'll get a really thorough drug history to see, could it be one of the new drugs that's causing the new rash? So as I'm on the phone talking to whichever resident or attending or nurse practitioner or physician's assistant who paged me, I go down the list and I just fill out all of this information so that I have all of it ready and handy when I need to see the patient. In here, I also have a bunch of forms, like any forms I would need if I had to do a biopsy or if I had to take pictures. So anyone who's on home call, I highly recommend getting a binder of info together and some call cheat sheet papers so that whenever you're called, you're ready to just jot down information and you'll have everything in the same place. Okay, so what else is in my biopsy bag? So these are called little biopsy kits that we put together. And these kits are for if we ever need to do a biopsy, which means taking a sample of the skin and sending it down to the lab for analysis to look at under a microscope to try to figure out what is going on underneath the skin. So the basic way we do a biopsy is, we'll sterilize the area and then we will numb it with lidocaine. And I want to show you guys what a punch looks like. Here. Okay, so after numbing the patient, making sure they're numb with the lidocaine, then we use this little guy to take a sample of the skin. So this actually looks like a cookie cutter. I'm not going to open this since I'm going to use this on a patient probably at some point and I want to keep it sterile. But it looks like a little cookie cutter with a handle on it. And so after you numb the skin, you basically take this punch biopsy and you kind of wiggle it down into the skin, into the fat, and then you pull it out. And like a cookie cutter, it cuts into the skin, and then you pull it out, snip away at the bottom, and then I put in 2 stitches, usually with fluoroethylene, and the stitches come out in 2 weeks. I put the specimen in this little bottle, like a cute little bottle, label it with all the patient information, and then I send it off to the dermatopathology lab for processing, and a few days later, usually one day later if I rush it, then they'll tell me what the patient has. So those are kind of like the preparations that I make when I'm on call. I make sure I have my biopsy bag available, and I make sure that I have all of my paperwork and all of my equipment that I would need to do any procedures I would might be asked to do in the hospital. What else? So other things that I think are pretty important to have in your biopsy bag, or just in general, if you're on call, no matter what specialty you're in, are snacks. So I love gummy bears and any sort of gummy snacks, so I usually have like a pack of gummies available. I usually bring water, and since when you go into the hospital, you're never completely sure when you'll be able to leave, I try to bring something like carb heavy and filling too, like some bread or a sandwich or something like that. Also on call, it's really important to wear comfortable shoes and dress, in a comfortable way. Most of the time on call on the weekends, I like to just wear scrubs, or I wear, just like loose fitting clothing, something very comfortable. You're already working on the weekend. You don't want to be uncomfortable as well while you're doing that. And then always have an extra cell phone charger in your bag, because you never know, like I mentioned, how long you'll be at the hospital. So it's always good to have something to give your phone some extra juice. So for us in dermatology, we're on call on the weekends from Friday starting at 4:30 p.m. until Monday morning at 8 a.m. when we pass off the pager to the next weekday call person. And being on call is actually kind of exciting because you get to see a lot of cool things. You get to see a lot of cool pathology that you might not necessarily see in clinic, especially for people who wait a while to go into the hospital and only want to go when it's really uncomfortable or when the rash is really widespread. So that's what I'm going to be up to this weekend. I'll be chilling with my pager, walking around Manhattan, seeing patients. So that's what being on call is like as a dermatology resident. As usual, if you have any questions or comments, just leave them below. I love to hear from you guys. You have really good questions. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Snapchat and Twitter. And don't forget to visit my blog as well at www.twithmd.com for more blog posts about life as a derm resident, life in medicine, and just pretty much life in general. Have a good weekend, guys.